The composition should sound as if it's improvised. It should have the spontaneous quality. So actually, the art of music is the art of speaking with this spontaneous quality. And that is the thrilling part of jazz, in that it has more or less resurrected the art of spontaneous creative music. Again, it hasn't been heard from since, what, the 17th century or the 18th century in classical music.
Well, as a teacher and as a jazz musician, sort of a Jekyll and Hyde existence, by day educator, by night jazz musician, it seems like no one is really that interested in finding out what is existing in jazz. Students that I've been teaching seem to have vast misconceptions about the creative element in jazz, as opposed to, say, classical music, you know. And the way of explaining it to me is you cannot go back and erase in jazz. In classical music, as you so often have said, it takes 3 months maybe to make one moment of music, and in jazz, one moment of music is one moment of music. And it's this type of challenge that you have to direct yourself for that moment, and you have to call on all your energies and your intellect and physical energies and aesthetic sensitivity to your environment, and pour it all into this one moment, and you don't have time to even reflect on it, you know. Afterwards you may reflect on it, certainly, but at the moment you're inside of it. I remember hearing you play, and we were both playing at the same time when we were boys, where you could become involved and explore the subject. You kept exploring and exploring, and all I kept hearing was the excitement, or wanting the success, shall we say, preceding the years of involvement, of exploring and all this. And I think this, again, is true of so many people, and regardless of what field, again, the young business executive, the young man going into medicine or law, whatever it might be, where all they see is the end result, rather than seeing the intrinsic value of that field and what it can offer them as he becomes more and more involved in that particular subject.
I know exactly what you mean. I think the problem is that a person, I see this in a lot of people that come to me, for instance, for advice, or should they go ahead and so on, that they tend to approximate the product rather than attacking it in a realistic, true way at any elementary level, regardless of how elementary, but it must be entirely true and entirely real and entirely accurate. They would rather approximate the entire problem than to take a small part of it and be real and true about it. And I think this is a very important thing, that you must be satisfied to be very clear and very real and to be very analytical at any level. You can't take the whole thing, and to approximate the whole thing in a vague way gives one a feeling that they more or less touched the thing, but in this way you just lead yourself toward confusion. You know, and ultimately you're going to get so confused that you'll never find your way out. But it is true of any subject that the person that succeeds in anything has the realistic viewpoint at the beginning, and knowing that the problem is large and that he has to take it a step at a time, and he has to enjoy the step-by-step learning procedure. Like, say we take a song. Maybe I'll use this song throughout as an example and treat it in different ways, but we all know this song, I Like New York in June, How About You? Well, say a person who wants to learn to improvise on this framework, and they've heard the top flight pianist handle this thing, so they hear them play it something like this, for instance, maybe. Well, they get an approximation of that, and rather than be satisfied with saying, I'll work simply with the framework and honestly and really, and say, play something simple like... They're going to try to approximate the other thing, but in a vague way, something like maybe... they're trying to do the thing in a way which is so general that they can't possibly build on that. If they build on that, they're building on top of confusion and vagueness, and they can't possibly progress.
I have to protect myself there.
Yeah.
Because you're hitting home.
Yeah.
This is my worst fault, is overplaying. But on the other hand, to thousands of musicians, such as myself, we have to overplay, I think, because we don't have time to even time to get to the keyboard to sustain the rudimentary things.
But the thing is, the point is, what are you satisfied with? In other words, it's better to do something simple, which is real, and it doesn't have to be. It can still be satisfactory, but it's something you can build on because you know what you're doing. That's simple enough, but it's all within the absolute framework of what you're doing. Whereas if you try to approximate something which is very advanced and don't know what you're doing, then you can't build on it. That's the only point I'm making, really.
But again, I don't think you can just eliminate it because we find a certain excitement about this. You know, it's an enjoyment. It's a certain kind of enjoyment, and I wouldn't stop playing.
Oh, I think you could. Yeah, right. You could be too cautious. You could be cautious to the point where you never discover anything. I think you have to have a certain adventurous spirit. But let's say over a long period of time, you have to be aware of what is really accurate and what is not.
Right.
And when you're adventurous, you have to know when you succeed and when you don't succeed. That's all.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, now, those of you who know not a great deal, let's say, about jazz, who grew up on classical music or folk music or rock and roll or popular dance music or whatever, you may possibly have some difficulty feeling, appreciating what a musician like Bill Evans is up to. You may even ask, and I think you should ask, why is what he does so much more truly art than what Trini Lopez or the Beach Boys or somebody do? Perhaps a comparison will help to make it clear. Take something you're familiar with, I'm sure, mathematics. You know there is this increasing sophistication from simple arithmetic, 1 and 1 is 2 sort of thing. You go up through first counting and then addition and subtraction and multiplication and division up through algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and so forth. That, I think, tells you something about Bill's music. It's just much more sophisticated. There's a great deal more to it. It's not simple rock and roll harmonics or folk harmonics by a long shot. And I think Bill will make this additionally clear to you as he moves toward the piano now.
Maybe we could demonstrate this. Could I use you as
Absolutely.
as an instrument for teaching, maybe?
Love it.
This is a privilege as a teacher. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, Bill. I hope you won't mind.
I'll try.
Because
Try to do it.
certainly the term jazz is a nebulous term, and if we assume now that we do know nothing about jazz. Bill, would you play just a simple melody of Star Eyes? No harmonics, nothing but the simple melody. Stop. Well, let's call that letter A, because that was 8 measures. We're going to repeat the same 8 measures, and we'll call this letter A again. Only this time, Bill, put the basic harmonies in this tune to that melody. Stop again. Now we have 8 measures and 8 measures. A, A. And now we come to what the musician usually terms the bridge, or we'll call this letter B, which is a different section, 8 measures long. Now play letter B, Bill, or the bridge.